equipment does every throws coach need? This is one of those big discussions around how can we establish the best amount of support so that we can develop that culture and build out for our athletes to become the best possible throwers. And I think that we've got to look at very specific things, from implements like a shot, a discus, and then if we're going to throw hammer, if we're going to throw javelin, right? But then even thinking about things like medicine balls, even if we're trying to think about specific balls that we want to throw for javelin, and then even down to what type of barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, what is needed to really develop a full-blown athlete. Okay, so when we're looking at developing throwers, I think it's really important to just dial in all those specifics. And this is something that we do directly inside of when we're looking at this, I think it's important to just start right off with shots. Okay, so I believe it's important to lay out those shots. And I'm going to talk about one shot in particular that people are probably going to ask about, and that's a 3K implement. I think it's perfectly fine to throw a 3K. I think most of the time, women in general will be better served to throw a 3.25, which is about right over 7 pounds. So I think it's okay to use a 3K, especially for the junior high level. I think once you get to high school, collegiate level, I like to shift that to the 3.25. And then when they get really, really advanced, we can bring in the 3K again, because it can be a very hard implement to throw. So let's talk about the high school, collegiate shots, the junior high shots that are needed. We're going to talk about the 3K, the 3.25. If you have access to a 7.5 pound implement, that'd be great. An 8 pound implement. I would even try to find something like a 4 or a 3.75, a little bit heavier than the 8 pound implement would be great. Okay. A 4K shot, a 10 pound shot, an 11 pound shot, a 12 pound shot, a 14 pound shot. I also believe if you have access to get a 6K, that would be great. If you can get a 4.5 kilo implement, that also would be great. A 9 pound shot, that would be great. But the main high school implements should be a 3.25, a 7.5 pound, an 8 pound, a 4K, a 10 pound, 11 pound, a 12 pound, and a 14 pound. Okay, if you have the 6K, that's fantastic. Now, at the college level, this is going to look pretty similar, but we're going to start to get a little heavy. And I'm sure someone's commenting down, and they're saying, "Hey, what about the 16 pounder at the high school level?" With a very advanced athlete, I think that's okay. Okay, at the high school level, and we do that a lot, but I recommend that they're throwing like 55 plus feet. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, the college level, 3.25, 7.5 pound, 8 pound, 4K, 10 pounder. I would go here 6K, 15, 16, 18, and then possibly a 20 pounder. Okay, so that's the layout for that collegiate level, men and women. And then when we're looking at discs, okay, so if I'm looking at the implements needed for throwing the discus, I like a 0.75K, especially for younger athletes, and for women as well. Even Jaime has thrown the 0.75K, like 77 meters. Now, the next level would be the 1K, okay? Then the 1.25 kilo discus. Then the 1.5K. If you have access to a 1.4, that's great. 1.5 is pretty easy to get access to. Then the 1.6K for high school. Then the 1.75K. Again, if you have an athlete who is a very elite thrower, someone that can throw 190 feet or further, they can play around with a 2 kilo implement. Okay, that would be perfectly fine. At the college level, this is another one where we go 0.75K. Now we're looking at the 1K, the 1.25K, the 1.75K, the 1.5K as well. I had skipped that. The 2K, the 2.25, and if we have a 60-meter collegiate discus thrower, the 2.5. Okay, so that's going to be that pull that we're looking at inside of those specific implements. Then the next thing that we have to think about, what about when we get into the weight room? Okay, if we get into the weight room, we need to make sure we have barbells. We got to make sure we have dumbbells. Do we have bumper plates? Do we have bands? Okay, we have to have those things. Those are like the bare minimums. A bench, obviously. These are like bare minimums that we're looking at. Barbell, dumbbells, bumper plates, kettlebells, bands, medicine balls. Okay, if we have access to that and if we can provide that for our athletes, we can develop absolute monsters. And one big factor that I also want to bring up is that we have body weights. Okay, everybody has a body weight. So if we have a thrower who's coming in junior high or in high school, we can get a lot of work done just with that athlete's body weight. We can do, assisted push-ups. We can do banded push-ups. We can do clap push-ups. We can do jump lunges. We can do walking lunges. We can do sprints. We can do bounds. We can do skips for height. We can do pogo hops. We can do so much stuff just with athletes' body weight. So keep all of those things in mind, and we can even get drills done with just the body weight. We can get drills done with bands. Okay, we can get drills done holding plates. We can get very creative with all of these different factors. And some people will even say, well, I only have access to a 12-pounder and a 4K. That's all we have. It's okay if that's all you have. We can still help you guys develop champions. That's exactly what we do inside of our course, The Perfect Throws Season. This is a 12-week course that's going to help you guys lay everything out as clearly as possible to help get your athletes to the next level. If you want to have that course, click on the link down below. Head over to throwsuniversity.com. Until next time, peace.